Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to say that the offensive line is maybe one of the strongest position groups on the entire offense heading into spring. I mean, like you said, 4 out of 5 starters are back. You bring in 2 transfers who have been quality players elsewhere, and Bless Harris and Lyles. I think with Lyles, the biggest thing is if he can be healthy from those injuries that he suffered at Wisconsin early in his career, and if so, then he's a solid starter right there at center. I think that gives the flexibility to, Maurice Smith be the backup at center, but also maybe he can flex out over to guard and start at right guard or something like that. But so you've got your 4 starters back, those 2 guys, and then you've got the young guys behind them like Zane Herring and all those guys.
Schrader.
Schrader, who has both started in their career. Estes.
Rod Orr.
Or Lloyd, man. I mean, we'll probably get to in the depth chart and other things, but Lloyd Willis and Rod Orr, I'm expecting to see some developments there. I want to see those 2 guys. Looking at them at practice, they've got the physical attributes and everything, but they spend a year learning the system, and there'll be a really competitive spring for them, and competing on that depth chart. But I want to see some strides being made there, because those are 2 guys coming in who had some good respect and talented offensive linemen.
Hey guys, it's Terrence Mann. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by No Game Day. Go Noles.
Hey, what's up? This is Peter Ward, aka E-Dub, in the house. We're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by No Game Day. Go Live, go Noles.
Hi, this is Charlie Ward, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, Go Noles.
This is Terrell Buckley. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by No Game Day. No Bloody.
But perhaps better known as the greatest corner to ever step on a football field, Deion Primetime Sanders.
Great Deion Sanders, my brother. What's going on, man? I could wake up to that greeting every day, man. That was awesome.
Hello, Noles fans. This is former Seminole Derek Brooks, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, presented to you by No Game Day.
James Wilder Jr. What's going on, James?
Thanks for having me on. FSOD, Florida State or Die, and go Noles.
William Bar None Floyd.
Gentlemen, what's up?
What is happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Hear the Spear, presented to you by NoleGameDay.com. Hope everybody's having a fantastic and wonderful evening. We've got some spring football to finally talk about. We've teased it for about a month now, but we are going to run into our spring offensive breakdown and preview everything, including depth charts, storylines, newcomers coming in, battles to watch, everything. So we'll be jumping into that offensive preview here soon. With me this evening is Dustin Lewis, our lead writer and editor, and down below, Austin VZ. Gentlemen, how are we doing, VZ? Doing good down there?
Well, I'm not smushed like I was in Cameron Indoor. So
yeah. You were really actually on the court, I feel like.
I was if depending on how I put my feet were on the court.
You could have tapped.
Insane.
You could have tripped someone. Yes.
I don't know about that. There was a couple times where players would fall over the table in front of me, over my laptop. That wasn't as fun as you'd think. But it was a neat experience. It's definitely a lot better than Clemson, who put me the last row in the arena.
Yep. Yeah.
How's your hip doing?
It was stiff.
Experience.
It was stiff the next day. I'm not even gonna lie.
How many knees did you have in your back while you were sitting down?
I actually had a chair, so I didn't feel anything in my back. There was a couple to the side of me, because people literally on either side of me.
It just looked like you were squashed in there, dude.
I was
a sardine in a can.
I was.
I saw those pictures you took, and it's like the people were breathing into your into the back of your head.
That girl was right on you. Which I don't think you were you weren't complaining about.
I was upset.
Oh,
no, I was upset. She was annoying. She was very, very annoying. Really, everyone around me was, and it wasn't a very knowledgeable student.
Oh, they're Duke fans.
Fun fact: since he's talking about Grayson, I actually know Grayson Allen. I grew up with him and his family.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, snap.
It was a neat experience. I'll say that. But we'll talk about that later. I know people don't want to listen to basketball right now.
we'll give them the football scoop first, and we'll let them leave around the 9:30 mark.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't blame them.
But yeah, no, we've got quite a bit to talk about this evening, and I mean, nobody noticing. I mean, not even the people on the show noticed. We did a little revampage here, a little revamp. They didn't even say anything about it. Didn't notice it. So I'm hoping some people in the comments will say, "Oh, I mean, TR in here already, giving some love to the new look." That spent a little bit of time this week revamping, putting a little SI up there. I was like, we need to put some better branding on here. So did a little revamp on the live stream. I know a lot of you podcast listeners don't see any of the stuff on here that we're doing, but had to do a little revampage to get ready for the spring. But yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the spring practice dates released. We'll be at Tour of Duty on March 1st, next Tuesday morning, bright and early. And then we're going to talk about some USFL. Reggie Northrup, John Franklin, and DeAndre Johnson drafted three former Knowles, 2 former, at the time, quarterbacks too. And then we're going to go through storylines to watch of the spring. We've got which year 2 guy breaks out, strongest and weakest group on the offense. And then we'll go position by position, trying to predict the depth chart. This is the spring, so there's going to be a few guesses here and there, but at least on the offensive side of things, it feels like we can give some pretty good close guesses to who is going to be on that starting unit. And then Austin will end us off with some basketball. As always, you can listen to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. Hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube right now, and hit the like button if you're on the podcast waves. Make sure you subscribe there so you'll be notified every time we release a new episode. I think that's going to wrap it up. Let's get started with some stuff, and we'll also be taking some questions too. So make sure you guys throw in a lot of stuff throughout the evening, and we'll make sure to try to get in there. Let's jump into those spring dates being released. I know, Dustin, we kind of had a feel for whenever the spring was going to begin because of Florida State's big time recruiting weekend, which we can probably touch on too. And maybe give some latest on a few players. But the spring dates have been released, and that will lead them all the way into actually the spring game, which, Austin, are you coming down for that? Or are you staying put in Raleigh? Not Raleigh, Charlotte.
Well, I forget which weekend it is, but I feel like I remember having to do something that weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you do arrive to games and FSU does lose. So this would be your time to shine because there's no way a Florida State team could lose.
You'd be surprised.
You could find there could be some way.
We can find ways.
Got an Eric Church concert or something to go to that day.
Yeah, there's another country concert for him to go to.
Whole another 3-city tour coming up every month.
Yeah,
listen,
exactly.
I would do it if I could. I would do it if I could.
Oh, I know you could. But yeah, that spring game is going to be on April 9th. Things get started. It says on the graphic here, March 7th, but we do know things are kind of they get going on March 5th because of that recruiting weekend. But then it goes into March 9th, 11th, 22nd. We don't need to go through all the damn dates on here, but I'll put it on the screen here. They've got a big recruiting weekend, though, Delu. That might be the biggest thing out of this. A big time list is being grown. I know Dustin's been updating it all throughout the week with some of the visitors coming in, but that's really it's a big weekend overall. Even Nate Greer is coming in town for that.
That's never happened before.
That's when you know it's big.
It's like one time in the last 2 years kind of thing.
Yep. Golly. But yeah, big recruiting weekend.
Yeah, like you said, ton of recruits coming in. I've been hitting up guys on Twitter, texting guys, and seeing who's going to make it. And I think right now, I've got 47 or 48 confirmations across 2023 class, 24, and there's a few 25 guys that I think are going to be there as well. And pretty much all the 2023 commitments are going to be in, Florida State. This class is so deep at wide receiver. There's a lot of wide receivers making it in. Brandon Ennis, Santana Fleming, Tyler Williams, Adam Hopkins. It just kind of goes on from there. And same thing at defensive back and defensive line. In January, it was kind of spaced out a little bit. There wasn't as many guys on campus. I think the most was probably that first weekend. There was probably about 30 guys there. There's going to be more than double that on March 5th. And I'm sure there's going to be guys that I don't even confirm that show up as well. You always have some surprise guys show up.
Yeah, Parson, a big-time bell cow for that class, will be here. And, he's talked with you and I multiple times. And last time he was here in Tallahassee and said he's working a lot on these wide receivers and trying to get closely connected. I know there's a guy out there that the Discord talks about, Jalen Brown, and, they've got a close connection too. But Florida State's bringing in some stellar talent, but it seems like Chris Parson has been working really hard all around, but definitely in that wide receiver room, it seems like.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that kind of makes Florida State unique, because obviously the coaches are going really hard after these recruits, but you've got these other commitments coming at them the same way. And, these are guys that they can relate to, that are in their age group, in their class, that can tell them what Florida State's really about. You can hear it from a coach, but when you hear it from someone that has decided to commit their future to that program, I think it's a little bit of a different message.
Yeah. No, I didn't even write on here either. I will get to it in a minute, but the Atkins stuff and the rumblings there really didn't last too long, just a couple of days. We can probably get to that in a second. But yeah, yeah, I know. Atkins, that's why I thought about recruiting-wise, how that affects the team, because Atkins and his bag lately the last year, 2 years, but definitely this offensive line class that he's brought in, him having to jump into other position groups that he's going in and helping another staff member and try to land these guys, and what he did too with Armella at the end of early signing day that night. It seemed like, Atkins obviously well deserving of that co-offensive coordinator gig. And, I'm sure maybe Georgia made a contact, and, we don't know what maybe went further, but it seems like, at least from what I can feel like, Atkins wants to be under Norvell at least another season or two, just to learn from him and get that offense down. If, Kenny Dillingham was in that role last year, now he's at Oregon. He'll take definitely a more hands-on approach with that play calling duties at Oregon. Whereas, Atkins can come in, really learn under Norvell and kind of be what Kenny did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I think Atkins is looking at this role at Florida State as the primary offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach as one to spring himself into an eventual head coaching position. I don't think he's looking to take what some would say is a lateral move. And yes, he would get more money at Georgia. Yes, Georgia is the more successful program right now. But at the same time, I think Atkins is just trying to set himself up for something bigger, and that's eventually leading a program. And, who knows as things go. Mike Norvell probably going to start off as the primary play caller on that offense. But as he grooms Atkins, you never know. He's going to get more and more involved in that play calling duty and running the offense. And that's only going to help him in his coaching career.
Yeah, no, definitely well respected. And he will be a head coach one day.
Absolutely.
He had a big time respect even before coming to Florida State. Norvell, had that connection with him and was able to grab him, bring him into Tallahassee, and now he gets promoted fully into year 3 as a co-offensive coordinator. And, that just gives him a lot more time to learn. But I just didn't think this kind of was a Woodson type scenario where I just didn't see that happening. Usually there's a lot more talk here and there, and I wasn't on my end hearing much of anything for the Woodson thing. And also for Atkins. And I don't think it was also a play where Atkins was wanting, or Woodson was looking to maybe get a raise in some aspects where, you'll see assistants, entertain some offers here and there and maybe try to get a jump in pay. But I just didn't see that with Woodson and Atkins going into this year 3 with Norvell. So that's at least a positive, that you're not losing Coach Atkins, your top assistant, heading into a gigantic season for Norvell.
You cannot. I've said it on so many podcasts. Coach Atkins is probably the most important assistant coach on that staff right now, outside of Mike Norvell himself. You've got to do everything you can to keep him with the program as long as you can before he does get that head coaching job.
Yep, you got to. You're spot on there. So yeah, we'll be there next Saturday, right, D-Lou? We'll be at the Moore. We'll be there for practice availability along with a big-time recruiting weekend. So hoping to catch up.
It's going to be a long day.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those. It's going to
bring 2 waters.
Yeah, I'm going to have my jug. Might have to fill this up with a little bit of – never mind.
We need some sunscreen, man. it was kind of cloudy out there in January, and I was still getting sunburned somehow. I just been inside too much last 2 years.
Yeah, we gotta get you out. At least let's get you to a coffee shop where you can ride out there. You know, I wasn't gonna say you just go out to a park and just hang out. I was like, you've got to bring your laptop with you to get some content.
I ain't going to no coffee shop.
What? I like going to a coffee shop. I was there 2 times this week getting some work done. I can't just stay in this room all day long. I'll go crazy.
Well,
like just like you. Yeah, look at you. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to turn into you. TR is asking, after March 5th recruiting day, what is the next big recruiting day? I don't think we've really heard on a set date on the next one. Maybe
pretty much gonna have visitors, I think, coming in every weekend. I've already in the midst of hitting guys up. I've had some guys say they're not going to make it on March 5th, but they are going to make it. I've had some confirmed for the following weekend, March 12th. I've had some confirmed for March 19th already. Someone already confirmed to me for the spring game on April 9th. And 2023 running back Cedric Baxter, former Florida State commitment, he actually let me know that he's going to be making it on Wednesday, March 9th, a couple days after the event on March 5th. So that's a pretty interesting one because, yeah, Florida State's trying to get him back in the fold. He's one of the top targets at the running back position in the 2023 class for Florida State. He's going to be at USC on the 5th, and then he's coming to Florida State, and then the next day he's going to Miami. So it's going to be huge to get him on campus. And, you know, not having him on that recruiting weekend, you're going to be able to dedicate more personal time to him, I think. So that'll really help out.
Yeah, I was about to say Baxter's been one that I think still Florida State is in contention with there. Just a tricky guy, tricky kind of recruit that Florida State's going to try to have to hold down. Is that kind of like the vibe that you're getting from him? I mean, there's a lot of good schools, including USC with Lincoln Riley over there now. I mean,
well, you know, he's one of the top running backs, not just in Florida, but in the entire country. Every school in the country is after this kid right now, and I think he's just weighing all of his options. He did grow up a Florida State fan, but it's going to come down to more than that. He wants to see Florida State produce on the field, win games, make it back to a bowl game, have the running backs produce, show some kind of semblance of what he would eventually be able to do at the college level if he did come to Florida State. So they're definitely in contention, and it's going to be huge to get him on campus a couple of times this offseason. But you've got to take care of business in the fall. Yeah. Same thing with how we saw the 2022 class. You lost some guys because of the results on the field.
Yep, not wrong. Brez is asking, when is the spring game? That's April 9th at 6 p.m. And I think they're doing an after-show concert kind of dealio like they do every year.
Yeah, some country artists I've never heard of. Austin knows them for sure.
Yeah, Austin will probably be there.
So I don't know who it is. I haven't seen who was announced.
That would be the only reason Austin would come down into town for it. But yeah, I also don't know the name. The only one that I knew was Ice. What's his name? I'm gonna lose my mind now.
You don't even know.
I was about to say Ice Cube. Hold up. What's his? I'm missing it. Someone in the chat's gonna tell me, and then they're gonna kill me because I'm getting it wrong. Who was?
I actually don't know who that is. That's Chris Jansen.
Chris Jansen. Okay.
Fun fact: his wife is actually an FSU grad. That's probably why he's doing it.
There you go. There you have it.
That adds up.
She gets a little alumni reunion here.
He even has a song called Tomahawk that is pretty terrible.
He's
looking forward.
Probably going to play that after the.
He absolutely will.
The spring game.
Yeah, it's not great.
Really can we do like an instant reaction immediately after the spring game so we don't have to listen to that and I can get to drinking afterwards? Sorry. Let's look at Miss Carol here. Oh, this one, what do you think about the D2 quarterback Austin Reed as a backup to Jordan, who has been mentioned recently? I have not seen much on Austin Reed. I don't know if anybody else on here has. That name sounds familiar for sure. But I
haven't really heard much. I mean, I know he was a really productive quarterback at the D2 level. I think over 7,000 passing yards or something like that. So he's definitely a really talented guy. But you have to think with someone, a grad transfer entering the transfer portal and trying to move up divisions, he's probably looking for an opportunity to start and potentially showcase himself for the NFL level. So I don't know if it would make sense for him to come to Florida State. And I don't know if they have a scholarship to allocate to a quarterback right now.
Just now remembered who that was. I had to Google it. Who performed? It was Vanilla Ice. Ice Baby. I kind of was starting to connect it. Ice Cube.
How long ago was
rapper. That was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe, where Vanilla Ice. Yep, there's the chat. See, this is why we have the chat. Thank God. I'm so glad we've got to do. We're doing live streaming now because they're here to help. But I did search that one, Ice Baby with Vanilla Ice. I do remember that one. That was pretty good. That was pretty decent. Let's jump into the next thing on here. Well, we'll just note on it again. We'll be at Tour Duty March 1st. Looking forward to that. Should be a good time. We're going to be
6
up at 5
a.m.
a.m. Yeah, Dustin's going to. All right, so we've got to be there at 6, but Dustin's going to wake up at 4 a.m. because he's got to
about 4:45.
Yeah, you're going to do some kind of meditation for about 15 minutes, and then you're going to take a shower, pluck your eyebrows, do your makeup, eat.
Stop at Whataburger on the way.
Yeah, he'll
there's no way I'm going to be able to eat that early, dude. There's no way.
But you eat it at 1 a.m.
After, well, you got to think, when Tour of Duty gets over, it won't be 11 a.m. yet. I can still hit Whataburger on the way home. I've already thought about it. Come on.
Already thought about it.
Good Lord.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Don't force yourself beforehand. Wait.
But, yeah, you get it. You got to treat yourself after a long, hard-working day of 4 hours.
You have to start the day off right,
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we'll be there for that bright and early, and then continue the rest of the day being out there until probably the sun goes down. So we'll be there all day. So just putting that out there, showing how hard we work on this show for you all. Just so hard. Even if Dustin has to get up at 4:45 for some reason, I won't be doing that. I'll be getting up at 5:30, getting over there.
Yeah.
Some 3-4 more Knowles, D-Lou. You put out a piece today, some USFL stuff. We've got some spring football coming, not only with FSU, but it seems like we got some pro stuff going on with the USFL. Reggie Northrup gets drafted along with former FSU quarterback, but now wide receiver John Franklin III, and then quarterback DeAndre Johnson, who was actually drafted in the first round. Or not first day, but round 12.
Not the first round.
No, not the first round. First day, round 12.
Which it's a little confusing anyway. If you look at, this is a new, we've seen this the last couple springs. There's a new startup football league trying to make a name for itself. We've seen the AAF, the XFL, and now we have the USFL. But their draft process, it wasn't like a best player available or draft who you want type of deal. It was 35 rounds, and each round was a designated position. So it was like the first round was quarterbacks. I think the second round was defensive ends, and so on.
That was a little.
So the actual rounds that people got drafted in, I don't think it doesn't matter that much.
Nah, I don't think it's that. It's such. There's not a lot of teams, so it doesn't. I'm not gonna judge anybody for anything. The one thing with Reggie Northrup, though. I got to have a chat. We got to get him back on here again because the first pod was something that I'll never forget. But another
interesting one.
It was one where he
was doing all right.
Yeah, Reggie told us beforehand. I don't really want to talk too much about FSU and stuff and giving them a hard time. And then things hit a different gear, and we were on for a ride of just kind of telling them some things that he had some problems with at Florida State, and ended up being one of our most listened pods. So, but anyways, Reggie, man, I feel like he's killing it in MMA. I don't really, it all depends on pay and everything, and got to pay the bills and such. And I'm sure maybe football still is definitely a big old dream for him, and to eventually move up in those ranks in the pros now. But dude, the MMA, I feel like he's killing it right now. I want to go to one of his fights, but I don't know why I drive 4 hours for it to only last 30 seconds. If you guys haven't seen it, Reggie Northrup is a demon. The Black Dragon, he calls himself. He's undefeated right now. I think 4-0.
4-0.
Amateur pro. I have a problem with this. I'm sorry, Reggie, but, I don't know. I feel like you need to stay zoned in. He looks great. Body's in shape, which I'm sure he can play, but I don't know. I want him to be an MMA. I don't know about y'all.
Well, this is only for the spring, so I'm sure he's already getting something lined up for the summer. And, I don't know much about amateur fighting and the pay and all the stuff that comes with that and how hard it is to eventually work your way up to the UFC, which I'm sure is the goal for everyone in that sport, obviously. But like you said, Reggie 4-0, he's absolutely dominated in the competition that we've seen so far. And if football doesn't work out, that's definitely something that he can lean on and potentially make a career out of.
Yeah, I know.
Of.
It's all right. I won't judge you. We have some screw-ups on here sometimes. But yeah, no, Reggie, wish him the best of luck. I'm all for more football throughout the year. I would take it 12 months if I could. Sign me up, so I won't be against any kind of new leagues. I know some people are like, oh, this is going to fail, whatever. Just give me something every year. Damn if a new league just tries a damn new league every year. As long as I get more football, that's all that matters. Because I'm sorry, I'm sure the rest of the chat too. I could deal with some basketball, but really I've got to be betting on it overseas. I'm not cheating, overseas betting to really be interested in it, like NBA. Or I'm not gonna, MLB still hasn't started up yet, and their spring hasn't begun. But MLB just doesn't get me energized of anything. I need football. And maybe a little bit of basketball, but mainly football. So sign me up for more of that. Where is Nate? Go ahead.
I was going to say, we'll see what happens. These leagues, they haven't stuck yet, but eventually I feel like there's going to be one that is successful. And then you kind of have football in the spring to look forward to, as well as the fall. The interesting thing with what the USFL is doing is they've got 8 franchises, kind of across the country or whatever. But actually all the games, at least in their inaugural season this year, which I don't know if we said it, but it starts in April. I think all the games are going to be played in Birmingham for every franchise.
That is interesting to me.
Which is smart, because if you think about it, the other leagues, they've got to pay for 8 different stadiums, like to rent them out, to have all those games. Now you get to do it in 1 or 2 sites there in Birmingham.
Yeah, that seems like a smart idea. And I saw that too. They partnered with the NFL, D-Lou, with doing the rules, and they're going to test different things. I think the Sky Cam came from, what was it, XFL or XFL, and that ended up being something that the NFL used and took away from that. And so now they're partnering together. So there's going to be some different things with rules that they'll key in on during games and see, well, it seems like the audience, also the players, it seems like it's got a good smooth feeling to it throughout a game. Maybe we should introduce this, or at least let it be voted on in the NFL whenever they get over there and go through some rule changes every year and look back. So it's an interesting thing there. And I'm really looking forward to XFL coming back. I think I was actually watching that quite a bit, definitely because there was a lot of former Knowles on teams, but it was entertaining. I liked the in-game interviews going on. It was a lot more interactive. And I think too, the biggest thing in football right now, and the sports overall, that I think a lot of leagues are going to start doing, is allowing more different commentators. You're seeing it too with Peyton Manning, the Manning brothers doing their thing, but getting more than your just regular 2 guys in the booth that do it weekly. I think giving an opportunity to, talent, celebrities, former players, Marshawn Lynch. I mean, I would sign up. I would even pay, I feel like, a little bit of money a damn month or year just to hear Marshawn Lynch commentate a game and tell him that you just got ran the F over. Like, I mean, sign me up. So I feel like there's a lot of things that are going to be changing in the next couple
some
years.
Skittles at the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some other things that he could probably do, but it probably wouldn't last long. So it'd all have to be pay-per-view or somewhere else. But people like that, I think sports are changing in that kind of dimension. So I'm all for it. Let's talk some spring football. Let's jump into it. Offensive breakdown. We're finally here. About 2 weeks now, less than 2 weeks away from spring ball kicking off, really. And we're going to go into offense this week. I know there's a lot of questions and stuff in here, some topics being brought up that we'll bring up as we go through this. So don't worry, you can keep throwing them in there. But, I put down some notes in here in our production meeting of a few things that I think are storylines to watch. Number one for me is the quarterback room with Dillingham being gone And, you want to see a young guy in AJ Duffy come up and make strides because Florida State is going to have a competition for QB2. It's about solidified that Jordan Travis is taking the reins once again heading into really the fall. I mean, this last spring, it was really McKenzie Milton and Jordan Travis going at it. But this time, Jordan Travis has the sole reins. This QB room, to me, still has a little bit of question marks. Who's going to be QB2? Can AJ Duffy make those strides? I think a lot of people are wanting a lot of stuff out of AJ Duffy. I think they need to kind of tone that down. The spring for a young quarterback right here is maybe finding chemistry, making some reads, but feeling comfortable. But Tate Rodemaker, it seems like too, he's a practice machine, a spring machine, but when it comes into game time and getting thrown into the fire, it's no bueno. No things are connecting there. But yeah, that's a storyline that I'm keeping an eye on, is that quarterback room.
Yeah, we saw Lush in the spring game. We'd heard decent things about Rodemaker, and he comes out and throws 2 interceptions. Norvell's just on him the entire game. It'll be interesting to see if he's taken any steps forward, not only throughout last season, but throughout this offseason. How does he make progress in these spring practices? And we'll see how he performs in the spring game, a little over a month from now. But, you're right, that backup spot's a little shaky. Travis isn't the most durable guy. As much as we think he's the best guy for this team right now, he's still needs someone behind him in case something happens, because something's probably going to happen. It's just the way we've seen it so far.
Yeah, like you said, this is a huge storyline for Florida State, and probably one of the biggest on the offense overall. Because as you mentioned, Austin, Jordan Travis, he showed some signs of taking that next step last year during his redshirt sophomore season. But really the problem with his game is his durability a little bit. Missed a couple games last year, missed a couple games in 2020 due to injury. So, if Jordan Travis was to go down at some point this season, would the coaching staff feel comfortable turning to Rodemaker or Duffy to take over? And it's kind of a complete unknown right now. Rodemaker hasn't really done much during his time on the field. We're not sure about Duffy. He was highly rated coming out of that 2022 class, but it's always a little challenging to make that transition to the college level, especially as a quarterback, with the offense and picking all of that stuff up, developing chemistry with your playmakers. It's a big question for Florida State, and hopefully over these 15 spring practices, they can start to figure it out if Rodemaker or Duffy can step up and be that guy and then carry it into the fall a little bit.
I mentioned, too, when I was at practices, once Chuba Purdy decided to enter the transfer portal and Rodemaker was put up in that depth chart to where he was getting a lot of QB2 practice time, he did develop, and he was getting better in that pocket. He felt a little bit more relaxed. And, we only get to see a few hints of it during games. We got to see a little bit of it against Florida, but then you're working also with 3 quarterbacks. I mean, you had Jordan Travis being the starter. You have Milton there. Tate Rodemaker. I mean, kind of just it sucks a little bit, but I did see some progression in Rodemaker, which is a good sign. But still, Florida State has got to find a good, solid backup, definitely with college experience, and that's why we'll evaluate this spring and see how the transfer portal looks and see who might be out there for Florida State to grab. Because you also lose Kenny Dillingham, Tony Tokars, who we're hopeful to have on the show here soon this offseason. Young mind, still learning from Mike Norvell too, and really going to see how this quarterback room is impacted with Kenny Dillingham being gone too, because during practices he was very, very, very hands-on with these quarterbacks, very hands-on. So I'm really interested to see how that shift and coaching-wise too, not just these players, but how the coaching affects these guys out there. Then the next one for me I've written down is that wide receiver room. I mean, that's an easy one here to pick off of, but seems like Mike Norvell wasn't so happy with this room last year and the production made.
Seems like he wasn't happy.
Yeah, it just seems like he just didn't really like it.
I feel like he made it a little obvious for you.
Yeah. It seemed like he made it obvious to everybody, not only us, but to the entire team too. Definitely that wide receiver room, maybe Ron Dugan's too. But this wide receiver room completely revamped. You're bringing in 4 transfer wide receivers, some that had started at previous stops. You've even got young guys coming in. You've got a guy that's 6'7", feels like you've got another Greg Carr on the outside. You've got Micah Pittman, who has the experience. He's got the veteran kind of leadership he can bring, mature-wise, and something that Norvell really wanted in his locker room. Deuce Spann, got a speedy guy there with some talent, along with, Winston Wright, who could arguably get a starting spot week 1. So those are your transfers coming in, and, you bring those guys in, and you still have got a good amount of room there with some other veteran players. Keyshawn Helton has been there. You've got Joshua Burrell, who you're hoping is a full go, which we'll see during spring. I think there will still be some limitations for him, but another guy I'm really excited about is Burrell and McLean. I'm expecting to make some steps there, so I could ramble on and stuff, but Jordan Young, Portier, there's a lot of... You
forgot about Ontario Wilson and Ja'Kai Douglas.
Ja'Kai Douglas. Oh, no, I was going, but I was starting to lose oxygen in my lungs. I was hoping you'd help me.
You still haven't gotten Darian Williamson. There's a lot of guys in that locker room, in that position group. I wouldn't be surprised if, after spring, one or two of these guys leaves, like maybe a Jordan Young, who's been here a while, hasn't seen a lot of action. There's certainly talent. Maybe not a lot of production right now. We'll see how it breaks out. We talked about it last week with the guys coming in, and obviously with McLean and Wilson and Helton coming back. It's going to be interesting to see how this room shakes out. See the guys that end up starting. You would think one or two of these transfers would get that nod, but we'll see how the chemistry breaks out with Jordan Travis.
Yeah, and I really do think at the minimum, Winston Wright and Micah Pittman are going to come in and make an impact immediately for Florida State out wide, because they've both produced at prior stops. I know Pittman was a little limited by injury in his career so far, but as long as he can get back healthy, I think he's going to be a big tool for Florida State. We'll see about Spawn and Johnny Wilson. They both have interesting talent and potential, but I don't know if they're at that step right where they're going to be starters out of the gate. I do think they're going to be involved in the rotation. And then, to me, it's really, this is the year that Malik McLean is going to step up, because I think I said it last week, but I don't think any of us expected him to have that big of a role as a true freshman when he began his career. And just the signs that he showed throughout the season, he really started to blossom later on for Florida State. You think about that touchdown catch in the Boston College game. Florida State's got a lot of guys that can make plays in the red zone. You've got Malik McLean, you've got Johnny Wilson, Spawn is 6'5". Man, Darian Williamson, Poitier is tall as well. If those guys get involved in the rotation, so many long bodies. Yeah. So many long bodies on the outside, and now some guys who have truly produced and have elite speed. It's only going to help Florida State and Jordan Travis as he tries to take that next step as a passer.
It's probably going to be a heavy rotation group. Like, there's going to be certain packages for certain guys. Like, Wilson's probably going to be used more in the red zone than anything, and Span's going to be used on trick plays probably more than anyone else. There's going to be packages for these guys, and I'm really curious to see how they use them, because there's a lot of talent in this room for the first time since 2015, 2016. Like, it's been a while.
Yeah, Stan's mentioning here on Facebook saying we finally have height in that room too, and not wrong. Florida State last couple of seasons a little short there, but Johnny Wilson coming in obviously is a highlight there of almost could play some basketball VZ a tad bit there at 6'7", and then looking at Malik McLean too. You almost got twin towers on both sides. Those guys.
There's 6 guys, 6'2" or over. Like, that's a big receiver room.
Portier,
really big receiver room.
Yeah, Portier, even still young, man. I wish Young could click some things together, man, because watching him at practice is great. He's sometimes wide receiver 1 in my book. Him and McLean are just fun guys to watch during practice and just making plays in one-on-one situations. But, man, I wish Young, and like you said earlier, VZ, some of these guys are going to leave. This room is way too packed. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from the tight end room, which we'll talk about. But someone's leaving. And I don't think these transfers are coming in to want to come in and leave right away either. I don't think that's going to be the plan in their minds. So looking at a few of these guys that are no longer newcomers, guys that are veterans, may not be in Garnet Gold next season. I think Keyshawn Helen, I know a lot of people talking about him and him transferring, but I think the staff really wants him. Yeah, I think the staff really wants him, not only just for, he can be reliable in game, but for that locker room, he brings a very big veteran presence, and that's something Norvell, we saw it. I mean, we saw it firsthand the first couple months Norvell was here, that locker room has to change, and he's doing that. And he really wants Keyshawn Helen to be a part of this team.
They just need to use him a little bit differently. I mean, we talked about it a lot last year where they just, for some reason, they made him the deep jump ball guy at 5'6". I know they said 5'7" or 5'8" or whatever. He's 5'6". They just need to use him a little bit better. And he's a solid receiver for what he is. And like Logan mentioned, they need him for his leadership and his veteran presence.
And you've got to remember, this guy went through a devastating. For one, he was barely ranked coming out of high school, and then instantly started getting into Florida State's rotation as a true freshman, which just shows how much he worked his ass off. And then for two, he suffered a devastating knee injury a couple years, something that's really tough to come back from. And now he's a true 2.5, 3 years off that knee injury. Like you said, Logan, he brings a ton to Florida State's locker room, which is important in turning around the culture at FSU. And already this offseason, you're seeing him put that work in. He's been one of the few guys so far to wear a black jersey during the tour of duty workouts. And I don't know. I think he's going to come back with a renewed focus and make an impact.
Mm-hmm. Then the running back room, too. You're looking at, you're losing Corbin, your lead rusher the last 2 seasons. Not rusher, but you're out of that room. Your lead guy, your starting running back. And then now Trayshawn Ward, who was, now his merch says it, which I love, King of the Spring. The King of the Spring is back. Excited to watch him being able to. That's when Dustin and I were like, oh, so what people were telling us before, that's actually real.
Happening?
What is going on? This is the best player on the field. I thought that he won the spring overall. To me, there's a few other players that were doing well too, and what we were hearing, and also being out those spring scrimmages. Dulu, like Jamie, had a really good spring last season. Got to watch him, but Trayshawn Ward, I can't wait for year 2 for him, his first official really year 2, and most likely taking that starting role there. And hearing some things about him and just as a person now, he's destined to just zone everyone out and just key in on making crap happen, just from what I've heard, and some things here and there, and get some texts. I like his mentality. I like it even more, and it makes sense. Dude came from as a walk-on and earned himself a scholarship. So you got Trayshawn Ward and this other guy with DJ Williams, who I thought kind of revamped. I'm going to say revamped like 80 more times on this show, but revamped his whole body. And now during practice, I was like, dang, that boy can move and is fast and shifty. And then you've got Trey Benson coming in from Oregon, who I think is kind of like a wild card here. You don't know what to expect. You're hearing ups and downs about him. I'm sure he's got a chip on his shoulder, but this room has got some question marks too heading into the spring.
You missed arguably I would say you missed Baby 9, Lawrence Toafili, who we all really like. He's got serious talent, and he's made some serious plays. We saw it in the Clemson game this year. Just knows how to make plays. I want to see how he does with another offseason with Storms. Maybe puts on a little bit more muscle. But I still really like this room. I know you lose Corbin, but I still really like this room. You have Trayshawn Ward, who was really productive last season. Was at one point one of the highest graded running backs in college football. You have DJ Williams, so I'm a big fan of, big bruiser, but he's got good speed to him as well, as Logan mentioned. And obviously you have Toafili. I really like those 3 guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's talent, but there's just not a lot of proven production at this point. So really the biggest question is, can these guys step into the role and replace what Jashawn Corbin was able to do a year ago? Because, yeah, Trayshawn Ward, pretty solid in his secondary role to Jashawn Corbin, but does he have what it takes to step up and be the primary ball carrier? Can Toafili, like you said, Austin, can he improve his frame some more in the strength and conditioning program and can he stay healthy? Because that was a question mark last season. Missed a couple games, got hurt against Clemson, and kind of in and out of the lineup. And then same thing with DJ Williams. Second year in the system, can he assert himself and start getting back into being a productive back like he was early in his career at Auburn? Because he showed some flashes. We were impressed by him in practice. He scored a touchdown, I believe it was against UMass. And there's definitely some tools there. You know, who knows? Maybe he can step up and even be the starter at some point. You guys mentioned Trey Benson. Apparently, he was timed at a 4.340 recently. If that's true, I'm very interested in seeing what he can do.
If it's true, that's allegedly.
Rodney Hill as well, coming in, a guy that can help you not only in the backfield, but as a receiver as well.
I've heard very good things about Rodney Hill.
And we're not even,
in the Discord. But in the Discord.
You also have to factor in Ja'Kai Douglas, who's probably going to get some action back there too.
Yeah, he's going to be switched around quite a bit. But Hill, one of the names I was given this week of a guy as a newcomer coming in and impressing very early on, might be slept on a little bit too. So there's a lot of gadget players. Now
we haven't even mentioned the fastest guy on the team, and Corey Wren. I mean, does the light finally turn on for Corey Wren, and is he able to make some sort of impact in that backfield, or does he continue to hold that special teams role?
He's got to get healthy first. It seems like he's always hurt. You know, it's a groin issue, a hamstring issue. He's got to get healthy.
Yeah, that's the worst part about being a small athlete. You know, sometimes you can pick up those lingering injuries, and it's just tough to get back.
Did you ever have a problem being a small athlete?
No, but I had a lot of injuries.
Same.
So I can relate to Corey Wren on one level.
Yeah, but not maybe the speed wise. I don't think.
Well, I mean, I think I might be able to, if he jogged it, you know, I might be able to keep pace.
And you had like a gun behind your head. Sorry, I got a little too descriptive there, but I was just trying to say
it's a little messed up.
But then, what do you say, Austin? If they had like a running wire with Whataburger on it, that Dustin would
he would improve his 40 time by like half a second.
I think that's a guarantee.
That's what we were talking about last episode. We were talking about ways to get my 40 faster than Rich Eisen.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming up with creative ideas.
Nate's sick, so he's not on here, but he's definitely going to make sure that he comments and make sure he gets his presence in Nolan. He said wide receivers running the right route will help the offense. And he said he's sick, so he's not.
Nate is providing analysis from the comment section, so make sure to tune
really
in.
What
Sorry, podcast listeners.
Really what it is Nate finally got a pair of shoes from my store, and he's satisfied and doesn't need anything else in his life. So
now he's gone.
Did he even post those on Twitter?
I don't think so. He just made fun of it. He just made fun of it in our group chat, saying he didn't get the shoes when I was the one that packed the box. I know he got it.
Oh my goodness gracious! Yeah, no, Nate. Hope you feel better, but we'll hold it down tonight. Everything's going smooth right now. I got to say, it's a little bit smoother than sometimes you're on here. So we'll just keep moving along as we are. Let's move into offensive line before we start breaking down some other things. Offensive line newcomers and position changes. Don't really go deep into this because we'll talk about the depth chart, but you got some Caden Lyles coming in who might be able to will probably be competing there to take that starting job from Maurice Smith at center. You still got Dylan Gibbons there. You bring back 4 out of 5, if I'm correct. D-Lou, Robert
you are
Scott.
Correct.
This offensive line group, we talked about in the production meeting, and it kind of shocked us all that this might be one of the strongest groups on the offense. Like, it has competition to be 1 and 2 there on the offensive side of the ball this year, which is great. And, you know, you look at Atkins and what he's done and some of the newcomers coming in. You've already got some big boys. You got Charlton, who I know you were close with D-Lou during his recruitment. Big boy working on his body this offseason. Daughtry Richardson, too, who I thought was a great newcomer interview. You know, Florida State and what Norvell is trying to do and Atkins on that offensive line needs to be heard. And, you know, this is a big spring for some of these guys.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to say that the offensive line is maybe one of the strongest position groups on the entire offense heading into spring. I mean, you know, like you said, 4 out of 5 starters are back. You bring in 2 transfers who have been quality players elsewhere in Bless Harris and Lyles. I think with Lyles, the biggest thing is if he can be healthy from those injuries that he suffered at Wisconsin early in his career. And if so, then he's a solid starter right there at center. I think that gives the flexibility to, Maurice Smith be the backup at center, but also maybe he can flex out over to guard and start at right guard or something like that. But so you've got your 4 starters back, those 2 guys, and then you've got the young guys behind them like Zane Herring and all those guys.
Schrader.
Schrader, who has both started in their career. Estes.
Rod Orr.
Or Lloyd, man. I mean, we'll probably get to in the depth chart and other things, but Lloyd Willis and Rod Orr, I'm expecting to see some developments there. I want to see those 2 guys. Looking at them at practice, they've got the physical attributes and everything, but they spend a year learning the system, and there'll be a really competitive spring for them, and competing on that depth chart. But I want to see some strides being made there, because those are 2 guys coming in who had some good respect and talented offensive linemen.
Yeah, like you said,
I'm still a little bit worried about the depth. I'm worried if a guy or 2 goes down. Like, there's not much experience. If, like, let's say Darius Washington goes down or Robert Scott goes down, I'm still worried about the depth behind them. But at least there's bodies. We've had bodies that they haven't had in the past, which is, something. And I trust Atkins to get these guys built up more than anything.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is keeping those guys behind the starters healthy. And, I mean, keeping the starters healthy, too. We saw the offensive line struggled last year with guys in and out of the lineup every single week. But even the reserves behind them, I mean, Thomas Schrader, Zane Herring, those guys have been banged up early in their careers at Florida State. And they haven't been able to contribute as much as the coaches would have liked them to at this point due to that, even though both of them had started. So, I mean, you can tell that they're talented players. It just comes with being healthy. And, Logan, you mentioned Willis and Orr. Those guys, it comes with development, getting the playbook down and everything. Same with Estes. And we'll see what Daughtry Richardson and Kania Charlton are able to do. Offensive line is the toughest position, I think, probably – offensive line and quarterback are probably the 2 toughest positions to have a true freshman come in and start immediately, particularly on the offensive line, because those guys don't have their bodies built up in a college strength and conditioning program like other guys do. So I'm not expecting much from them except to continue improving, continue developing, and just show some signs for what they're going to do throughout their careers at Florida State.
Yep, I know we didn't get to see a lot of Schrader. Nate's putting it in the comments, but didn't get to see Schrader due to injury. And, and there was a lot of talk about him coming in and getting some early playing time, not immediately, but there was a lot of good talk and talent whenever he was incoming to Florida State. What is Nate? Nate wants us to pull up every comment that he has.
Jesus.
Look at this. Needs all the attention. He's sending us selfies, too. I should bring up the selfie.
Can you type more in the comments so there's more detail?
Yeah, we
on
can't.
The screen?
Once the type comments doesn't want to be on the podcast, make it make sense.
Like, what are we
Need
doing?
More than 3 words in that comment.
Yeah, so offensive line. I'm really excited for Caden Lyles. I also threw that into the Discord today. Some nugget there that he's really turned into a leader for some of these younger guys and being a mentor. So, and he's supposedly been pretty impressive too.
He's
physical
he's a big dude.
It's a big guy.
Which that's a good thing for Maurice Smith to learn from. See a guy like Lyles. That's one thing Smith needs more than anything: is put on weight, put on strength.
Yep. And stay healthy too. It was one thing, and
so that's the whole offensive line. Stay healthy.
Yeah, no, I feel like all throughout the last season, every guy was dinged up pretty early on, and even starting after the Notre Dame game. Wasn't Gibbons injured?
Gibbons and Smith both got hurt in the Notre Dame game.
Yep.
And then you had Robert Scott dealing with that leg injury. I don't know if y'all remember his performance against Louisville, but I mean, the dude couldn't move, and he was just giving up sack after sack because he was fighting to be out there. But I mean, he was just so limited. And that was the problem with the offensive line throughout the season. I mean, just you never really got to have that consistent 5 out there because someone was already banged up. I mean, just every freaking week. But that's why it's good this year. You're going into spring football with 13 scholarship offensive linemen, and by the fall, you'll have 16 scholarship offensive linemen if you don't add any more transfers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this whole offensive line, I can't wait. And definitely once spring is over and camp begins in the summer, You bring in a few other guys. If Woody's able to arrive, you've got Armella coming in, Sapp, who we had him on the pod and was extremely impressive as a young guy and Knoll-blooded. This offensive line, man, it's going to be fun to watch, and this is all because of Atkins. It's all because of Atkins. Norvell is impressive and his recruiting efforts, but Atkins is Atkins, and he's been able to bring in this talent, which is going to be fun. I'm shocked that I'm actually really excited about seeing an offensive line class coming in. I'm probably one of my top rooms that I'll be looking forward to watching.
Yeah, and if I'm correct, I believe Florida State, they only have 2 seniors on the offensive line right now. So, I mean, this group is just, you got to think, throughout their careers at Florida State, going to continue to get better and better. And hopefully Atkins sticks around for it. Pay him.
Got to pay him. Pay him maybe
$8 million.
Well,
someone in the comments earlier said name him the head coach in waiting, which I thought was an interesting comment since Mike Norvell's like 39. He'd be waiting for a while.
The head coach.
Yeah, he said name Atkins as head coach in waiting. He'd be waiting for a long time.
He'd be here like Odell. I mean, Odell never wanted to be a head coach, but not really. But I don't think that's going to happen. Atkins is going to be a head coach, and sooner than later. Here's Nate. Live look at that there for everybody, so you can see what he's going through right now.
Emperor Nate Patine live in action.
What is that?
Yeah, looks like a sickly Darth Vader.
A sick Darth Vader.
I don't know.
It's Darth Vader without the helmet is what that is.
Yeah, no, Nate is struggling tonight, so that's why he's not on here with us. But he's in the trust me, he's here with us. He's in the comments. He's making sure that's known. He's about now 70% of our comments. So
I need him to join and then write messages on like a whiteboard and then hold it up.
Yeah, that's what we need. But yeah, so that practically wraps up. I would put in here just to talk about year 2 guys. I think there's a lot on the defensive side, more than maybe there is offense, because we got to see, I don't even want to give away my names for next week. I got some good names for year 2. So, but offensively, maybe who are some year 2 guys that we maybe should keep an eye on for this spring? I mean, one of the names I can start us off, probably definitely McLean. That might be an easy pick there for me. Not like we're picking anything, but just to discuss McLean, definitely probably high, if not number 1 on that offense for next season.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton of second-year guys. We mentioned 2 of them a couple minutes ago, Rodor and Bryson Estes. Hopefully they can step up and start to make some contributions, somehow get into that rotation. And then, I mean, outside of that, I think it's got to be Jackson West in that tight end room. You're going to need someone to step up opposite of Cameron McDonald with Jordan Wilson graduating, and he's got the talent to be that guy.
And you could also consider DJ Williams. I know it's not his second year in college, but it's second year at FSU.
Yeah.
That someone in that running back room needs to step up for some depth. I think that's a good name to throw out there.
I don't think anybody on that offensive line. I mean, we named a few of them
earlier. I said 2 of them. Dylan Gibbons. I guess he's going into a second year technically. And I mean, you're gonna look to him to be one of the leaders of that offensive line this year, and hopefully be one of the stalwarts as far as staying healthy as well. Because when he was in, Florida State was really good.
Yeah,
I mean, when that whole front 5 was in.
Mm-hmm. I was on here too. Strongest and weakest group on the offense. Strongest and weakest group heading into the spring.
I'll start us off. Strongest, I'll go running back. Weakest, I'll go tight end.
Okay. I think it's close between if we're going weakest, I think it's between tight end and
tight end's weakest.
Probably tight end, yeah.
Tight end's weakest.
I was gonna say I was thinking of some names and I'm like, damn, there's actually a lot more running backs than I thought.
After McDonald, it's just like there's no experience.
You lose Wilson.
Yeah, you lose
who was
Wilson,
clicking in that second half of the season.
He was such a great blocker. I mean, just phenomenal blocker. And they were using him so many different ways. He was great in the counters where they bring him up the middle, as like kind of like a fullback. I thought he was great. They're gonna have to find someone to fill that role, but you know, who knows? Besides that, it's been, you know, trick plays to Preston Daniel and things like that. So we'll see how it breaks out. But I think that's by far the weakest position group, because even as talented as we all think Cam is, he doesn't have that much production.
Right. No, I agree with that.
Yeah, that tight end room is rough right now. Preston Daniel behind Cameron McDonald along with Rector.
You got Wyatt Rector, Kobe Gross, Jackson West, Marcuston Douglas.
Maybe that's – wait. Maybe I'm going backwards now. Maybe I'm going backwards. I'm going back to your two guys that I'm looking to see make a jump, and maybe Jackson West. We heard a lot of good things about him.
I literally said Jackson West.
Dustin did say Jackson West.
Damn it, God.
Listen when I'm speaking, man.
I'm over here trying to
put me last week.
I know. I'm trying to put away,
bro.
I'm trying to read all of these comments from Nate. I'm looking over here at different kind of things. I'm like, God dang it. But yeah, Jackson, let me add that to my list right there.
I mean, if there was a capable backup quarterback in the room, I would say quarterback's probably your strongest with what I expect Florida State to get out of Jordan Travis in 2022. But I mean, it's tough to pick one.
What's the strongest?
Right now?
Come on, you got to do it. Come on, for all the listeners, the thousands and thousands that are listening, they want to hear it from you.
It's like, I get why Austin went with running back, but there's just not as much production there as there is in the quarterback room.
Yeah, but after Travis, there's Tate Rodemaker and a true freshman and Geno English, who's
I mean, you know, we all put our hands together and pray and hope he slides some more.
Big healthy prayer circle.
Just give Jordan Travis my legs.
Nate's saying the weakest. Nate is saying the weakest room on the offense is the wide receiver room. Wow, bold statement there.
I don't think I agree with that.
It's not that crazy. I mean, because there's no production really. I mean, I should say there's no production. There's not that much proven production, but I think there's a lot more talent than there's been in years past.
I think too, with the upside of Jordan Travis too developing as a passer, we saw that last year too. But then again, you could say, well, that wide receiver room wasn't so great either. So, I mean, I don't know. I think the wide receiver room has talent coming in, and I think it's kind of put more of a competitive energy into there, which it needed badly. And you brought some height too. So I wouldn't say it's the weakest for me. I definitely think it's still a tight end because, once again, you have Cameron McDonald there, who, like y'all had mentioned, the production-wise isn't so fantastic, whereas I think that it should be. I think he's gifted and is talented, but you lose a blocker with Wilson, and losing a guy like that is rough. And so you got to hope that, you know, Preston Daniel steps up, walk-on guy, along with either a Rector or Jackson West, Marcuston Douglas. So that room is another big boy one. That Kobe Gross too, also in that tight end room, who we didn't get to see a lot of last year, but still a very young tight end coming in. It's another big room, which Coach Thompson has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You know, five of the 7 scholarship players are redshirt sophomores or younger. So it's just a lot of young bodies, and we're going to see who steps up. I do think Preston Daniel, I don't have him listed with the scholarship guys, obviously, but I think Preston Daniel is going to continue to have a role in that offense, and he might even be the guy to step into Jordan Wilson's role as the blocking tight end. So we'll just have to see. I know the staff likes Brian Courtney a lot, true freshman coming in, a guy who played all over the ball in high school. They really like his versatility, and they think they can move him around to different positions in that offense, you know, tight end, H-back, things like that, to get him looks.
What is going on? And yeah, now we got to mute you because I don't know what's going on in the background.
You watching TV?
Yeah, he's watching TV and commenting on there, but I got to wait to unmute him.
Can you pull that tissue out?
What the world is going on?
Why'd you do this?
Just boot him.
Why did you do this?
What's your one thing you got to say? No clue.
All right, listen. Listen. Y'all interfering in my Just Jesse time.
You good, bro? You need some water.
Now I'm fucked up, bro. I took 2 COVID tests today. They're both negative, thank God.
Well, I don't know what you have, Darth Vader, but you got to fix that.
You got to fix your face.
Just no, he's gone.
Did you kick him or did he leave?
You don't know what you're gonna get from production wise.
No, we just kick him again.
What does that even mean?
What does that mean? What do you mean?
What do you mean? What I mean?
Production wise, from who?
Like they were god awful last year. And
wide receivers?
Yes. They were god awful last year, and how do you know they're gonna be that much better? You know, there's a lot of hope, yeah, but for me coming into spring, it's the weakest position.
Mike Tyson on the podcast. Spring.
Yeah, I'm fucked up, dude.
We're gonna let you get some rest. I like that you're in the comments. This is nice. You get some rest. Don't worry about it. You need to get better for next weekend. So
what's the hope for the tight ends then, Nate?
I put my comment in there. I think that tight end wise, it's going to be Cam McDonald, and I agree that Jackson West. I think that he's going to, he's one of my second year guys to watch for, and Kobe Gross for Heisman.
Kobe Gross for Heisman, and Nate stands in here saying that you sound like Coach O.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, but the reason why I came on, Austin, those kicks are fresh, man. I appreciate
it. You're good. Appreciate you.
Yeah, Austin finally got
they were in the box.
I found them.
They're in a different package.
Oh, say go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Oh, that is spot on.
Go Tigers.
Oh my God.
All right, Nate, get some rest. We'll hold it down. We only got a few more minutes of this. God knows. We'll see you next weekend. Well, there goes Nate. Good to have him hop on there just for a little bit. As always, that was great. That's how it should be, actually, honestly. I think it should just be 10 minutes of Nate coming in.
A quick pop in.
God, I'm crying.
A little pop in. That was great.
Bro.
Oh, Lordy day. Okay, let's get this depth chart real quick. Let's start off with quarterback. Obviously, number 1 and 2 is most likely going to be Jordan Travis and Tay Rodemaker. The storyline, like earlier, can AJ Duffy move up there and take that QB2 spot? But I don't see that happening this spring, but it will be good to see him in person and stuff. But QB1, QB2, I think is kind of set in stone.
So is QB3 set in stone?
I don't know. We got to watch the Geno English versus the Duffy competition. It could be something to watch out for. You love you some Geno English now.
Do I?
What is going on? Yes, bipolar. Yes, you did. You talked about him all last spring. Definitely during the scrimmages. Like, oh my God, here comes Geno English. Oh man.
I think, yeah, because he was the only walk-on quarterback. I was like, let's see if this guy can do something. I think everyone is always a fan of the walk-on quarterback because if he does anything good, they're like, well, that guy's a walk-on, and look at him. So
look what he can do.
Of course, that's how I feel.
Being a walk-on's a win-win. If you go out there and
definitely at Florida State would
play, if you go out there and play, you get some production, be like, oh my God, he's a walk-on. If he goes out there and sucks, well, yeah, he's a walk-on.
Yeah. So that's the quarterback room. Over to running back. RB1, RB2, RB3. What do we got? What are we feeling, D-Lou? What do we got here?
Well, Treshaun Ward is number 1, obviously.
Yeah.
He's probably going to have 1,000 yards this spring.
Oh, it could happen. He is the king of spring.
It makes no sense. Like he was legitimately unstoppable last year whenever we were out there. Behind him, I don't know. I've heard some talk on DJ Williams a little bit, and there's some people who I talked to that have really been kind of hyping him up. So I think DJ Williams is going to step up and be a productive back for Florida State this year, with Toa Philly right there in the mix, right, either kind of equal with him or right there behind him. I think that's really going to be your three that take the bulk of the carries. And I mean, we all know how Mike Norvell runs that running back room. It doesn't matter who starts, it matters who finishes. And really that comes down to who's the hot runner during that game. You know, these carries are going to be distributed pretty evenly, and I wouldn't be surprised to see even less disparity than we saw between Corbin and Ward last year moving into this year. I think it'll be more of an equal split between guys.
I think I would have Tofu as RB2. I just think he's a little bit better as a receiver out of the backfield. I think that's something Norvell really likes out of his running backs. I mean, go back to that Clemson game. He had that great catch up the sideline. I think they want to use him on wheel routes a little bit more. But I mean, I've made it known I like DJ Williams, so I wouldn't be surprised either way. Really, voice crack.
Yeah, wow, holy.
Either way,
I've been trying to clear my throat off mic for like 2 minutes, and it didn't work.
You got to mute your mic and then clear it. That's what I do.
Trust me, I was trying. Like, I don't mute it through the camera. I mute it my actual mic.
Yeah, me too, bro. It's one little button. Bang, bang.
Here's a question here from Gavin asking Winston Wright or Micah Pittman, who's going to be better out of these two? Oh, we love these. We love these before we even get to see him in person.
I know, right? Like, what do you want me to
say? I haven't had one
say?
Practice. We got to decide right now.
Now, Gavin, when we're completely wrong, you can't clip this, please. Can't clip it. It's a good one though. I like this. Give
me Wright.
Give me Wright.
Just because he's been more of a proven producer throughout his career to this point.
No, I'm just trying to make this just even like harder
than
it should be. I'm making it harder than it should be because I'm trying to think, what about Micah Pittman though? Because we use a lot in special teams. Like, could I really win this argument or anything?
So Winston Wright could damn well be a kick returner, a punt returner as well.
The real correct answer is Dustin Hill.
Oh, wow. Don't bring this up now. This whole chat is just going to be filled with Dustin Hill. Question.
It already is. Like,
just put it out there before the question.
Every episode.
Yeah. Dustin Hill. We'll wait until August, around fall camp time. Summer camp. That's what we're hoping, right? Summer camp. Hoping so. But yeah, I'd go with Wright too. For that question. Next one up is, what are we at? Wide receivers? Starting wide receiver room?
You're giving 3?
Yeah, we could. We could do like slot and then 2 outsides. I don't know.
No, I'll just say 3. McLean, Ontario Wilson, and Winston Wright. Logan doesn't seem happy.
No, I'm trying to see if Dustin was going to say anything before I did.
Just thinking.
I like, McLean. McLean will be in there. That's easy one there.
I like McLean and Wright.
Yeah, McLean.
I think Ontario Wilson is debatable because
I just think
Micah Pittman.
When he had the production.
It's the knowledge of the system. I think that's gonna. I'm not going to say he's going to start all season, but I think throughout spring and maybe the first couple games, I think he's going to be at least one of the first 3 receivers out there.
I can see the argument behind that because obviously Ontario Wilson and Helton are going into that 3rd year now under Mike Norvell. McLean going into year 2. So I could see where they have more system familiarity, going into the spring and those 15 practices. But really, I think the most important
as a starter too. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you could also Helton, but I just didn't want to put Helton and Wright as starters when they're both, shorter than 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
No, it makes sense. Why is that funny?
No, I'm not laughing.
No,
I'm laughing at what
Nate's
Nate's putting in here.
Yeah.
This is what happens. Just getting distracted. I shouldn't be distracted. But this whole wide receiver, it's a good discussion because, this wide receiver room is loaded everywhere. And, you've got veterans who produce, like Ontario Wilson, who had production last season and season before. And out of nowhere, could he just be put to the side and now a transfer takes his spot.
I mean, regardless of who starts, I really think you're going to have that top 8 of the 4 transfer guys coming in, and then Ontario Wilson, Keyshawn Helton, Ja'Kai Douglas, and McLean returning. And I mean, those 8, that's a solid little core right there.
I still think Williamson gets in a little bit. I mean, he showed some flashes last year. I feel like we shouldn't write him off. There's a lot of bodies in there. It's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. I wouldn't be surprised if Span doesn't get that much action this first year as he tries to learn a new position.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's really all up for grabs.
Yeah, for Deuce. Well, I guess we'll just have to see how it spans out.
Please shut up. I'm begging.
Thought that was pretty good. I thought that was fantastic, actually. I'll be using that for the next couple of years too.
What you need to do is turn your camera off and just push the chair back.
Just unplug the computer. Golly, you want me to hit my head on the kill myself? Jesus.
No, I'm just saying, just back away. Just back away.
Back up. Well, yeah. So that wide receiver room, it's going to be that. Sign me up. I can't wait to go there and watch and see who's making strides. And I would like to see a veteran kind of say, screw off. I don't give a damn transfer. I'm going to hold my spot. So we'll see. There's talent there. Tight end. We called it the weakest link on this offense.
It's Cam McDonald.
It's Cam McDonald than everyone else.
Pass catching, blocking, Preston Daniel. Marcus Douglas.
I don't think he's going to contribute.
Well, not starting,
no.
But blocking wise.
I don't think he's going to contribute.
No.
Personally. That's just my opinion. But, I mean,
there's always one guy that comes out of nowhere.
It's not going to be him.
Whoa.
But
damn.
Cameron McDonald, solid starter. And really it comes down to, can Preston Daniel as a walk-on handle a bigger role for Florida State? Can Jackson West in his sophomore season step up and be that flex tight end, be a guy who can not only help Florida State in the passing game, but also as a blocker, because he does have that capability. It's just, is he ready to do it right now as a sophomore after being limited last spring with some injuries and playing a reserve role as a true freshman? So it's going to be on him to step up. And can one of those true freshmen come in? Jarrell Powers, we mentioned Courtney. He's already on campus right now. Can one of them have an impact in that room immediately? And then you've got Wyatt Rector, Kobe Gross as well. Will one of them be able to step up? Obviously, Rector, a former quarterback. Who knows? I mean, the room is just a giant unknown right now outside of camp.
I feel like that's another room where someone's going to leave after spring.
I think so,
just too many bodies.
Someone's leaving.
But I'll go Cam McDonald for going into the spring. McDonald, Preston Daniel, and I think they'll have Rector number 3 right now because he was still playing a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think Jackson West breaks into that lineup by the end of the spring.
Mm-hmm. Johnny Buckets is asking, Ontario Wilson or Helton, who would you want instead? I'd go right now for me, Wilson.
Yeah, it's got to be Wilson.
And then this last group that we got to go through is offensive line. Offensive line got a lot of transfers that it will be here competing in the spring during this camp. Got bringing back 4 out of 5 of your starters too.
And one of them may not be starting.
Yeah, one of them might not be starting too. Which we can start off at center here. Do we want to take a guess at
why would we start off at center?
Because I think it's fun to do that. Then we go to the left, and then we jump all the way to the right.
It really bothers me.
Does that ruin your
right?
Does that hurt you? Make your brain hurt even more? We're hurting Dustin's brain. And Austin, this is how many?
It's just frustrating because it hurts his brain.
I get his gripe. To be fair,
but it shouldn't.
Why start in the middle? Like, do you start with the center when you're announcing basketball lineups? No.
Okay, well, don't bring up basketball in here.
I'm just saying.
I would not even know that.
Man in the middle. You never start with the man in the middle. Just never happens.
Well, the coach is last.
What does that have to do?
I don't know.
Again, turn your camera off. Back away, please. I'm begging.
I can back up and bring this with me.
No,
actually,
leave the mic.
I can lean back here and just chill
leave
out.
The mic.
So, let's start from left to right, gentlemen, like the Cupid shuffle. Who's at left tackle? Who's starting at left tackle this spring?
Gino English.
Get the out of here. Okay, now he needs to leave, but he will actually leave. So you can't leave.
I got Robert Scott.
Yeah, we said the easy answer is Robert Scott.
Scott had a nice season last year. Impressed, starting to get some on the board, on the NFL boards. People
a good second half of the season. You know, we mentioned earlier he struggled with injuries a little bit. Once he got healthy, he was pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna, like you said, outside of those injuries, pretty good sophomore season from him, and you would hope he only continues to improve moving into his third year.
Thank you.
Well, no one cares. No one cares what Johnny Buckets thinks. All right.
Okay, I was about to say the podcast listener is like, damn, Dustin's mean. But yeah, Johnny Buckets on the stream here said I would start with center too, and you're completely
get your life together.
No.
Damn, Jesus. Well, Michael's saying Dustin Hill's at left tackle, so
he's still my joke. I was going to put him at right guard, but
yeah,
he got to it before I did.
See if he's bulked up with raging Cajun food down there in Louisiana. A little too much jambalaya for Dustin. That's what he's been doing a lot of cooking over there. But yeah, so that was left tackle. Let's move into left guard.
Gibbons.
Dylan Gibbons.
Dylan Gibbles. Center.
Lyles.
I think Lyles too for me.
I think Caden Lyles overtakes Maurice Smith.
Yep.
Due to what we mentioned earlier with Maurice Smith's frame and everything. It's just been tough for whatever reason. You know, some guys just struggle to gain weight, and we've kind of seen the same thing with Lawrence Toafili and the running back room. Those two guys have just struggled to bulk up for whatever reason.
Then over to right guard for Florida State's offensive line. Could it be? Could Washington be moved on the inside here?
I'm going to go Darius Washington.
That's probably what's going to happen. I'm not the biggest fan of it because I thought he was arguably FSU's best lineman last year at right tackle. He had made some serious strides down the stretch last season, and I feel like he's best at right tackle. But I think that's what happens is he's going to slide into guard, and then not to spoil it, but you have Bless Harris start at right tackle.
And honestly, I think Bless Harris and Washington could almost be interchangeable. I think either one of them could play that right guard spot, and either one could play the right tackle spot. So however it shakes out during spring, that might be something they're looking at. Which one is a better fit at tackle and which one's a better fit inside? And that's something that's to be figured out.
It also depends how they bulk up over spring. You know, right now Harris is listed at 315. Washington's listed at 295. You know, I think that's going to play a little bit of a factor too.
Yep.
There's going to be some combination of those five guys. It's going to be some combination of those five guys. How Washington and Harris shake out is going to be the biggest thing.
A lot of guys were shuffled around anyways last season, so they kind of are getting some playing time in spots that they didn't come in as freshmen already playing in. So that's just kind of how it was last year. It was a revolving door of, we got to put you here, buddy. And it'd be away games, and Coach Atkins and Mike talked about it after games. You know, I remember Atkins after a practice saying, man, we didn't have any plans of putting him over here and him over here and him over here. We had no plans of doing that, but that's just what we had to work with one game. So Florida State, you know, that offensive line, we'll see who can be moved around. But Bless Harris, there's a lot of positives talked about him too since his arrival to Florida State. So we'll see some big-sized guys coming in. Other than that, I think that wraps up projecting the depth chart for the end of, well, at least heading into spring, but what we think will be going into the spring game. So don't clip all this whenever we're completely wrong, and don't post it on Twitter. But if you do, make sure you tag us so we can get some followers. Speaking of what won't get us followers and maybe lose our viewers, is Florida State basketball. Florida State basketball is once again having a rough time They're having a rough time. That's all I can say. Austin's holding on by a thread. At least VZ did go get to cover a game right on the court practically. I saw you on TV, put you on the IG story.
Which no one could tell.
I know. I don't know why.
The worst camera quality I've ever seen was you tagging me in No Game Days Instagram.
The quality wasn't bad. It was the video. Like whenever it's
it was terrible.
It's the TV. It's the TV. It's bad. It's like blue. It makes it look awful, like a blue tint on it. But yeah, Austin got to go cover the Duke basketball game, the NG sleeve, Nike sleeve. I mean, I can't lie. It's kind of smooth. It did show out a little bit.
I wish, you have the logo like right here. I wish it was like, a
little bit lower,
natural, like on the chest.
Yeah, I can't do it all. I can't do it all.
I wish there was a large instead of an extra large.
Yeah, you got to get pumping some iron, man.
Or you just send me the right size shirt.
Well, your polo is the right size. Your polo is the right size. I promise you. But Florida State basketball almost done with the season. That's sadly what I have to say.
3 more games and an ACC tournament game, and we're out of here. We are almost to the end. We can see the light in the tunnel.
God, this is so sad.
I'm so depressed. It's been a long season, really long season. The Duke game for anyone that's not been to Cameron Indoor, that's a special environment. Like that's just, it's one of those places you have to find a way in. I mean, I know it's expensive. Look, I've been blessed to go 3 times and I haven't paid for a ticket once. It's just a special,
flex,
odd flex.
Yeah. Just go ahead and flex it.
It's just a special atmosphere, and it was so different this time. Basically sitting in the student section is essentially what you're doing when you go as a media member. You're basically in the student section. It's a little weird that they bow to Coach K every time he's on the floor. I think that's a little weird. But other than that, it's a really fun atmosphere. It's loud consistently. I was almost deaf at halftime. Thankfully, the second half didn't have that much action. It was a pretty back and forth first half, though. I'm ignoring what my nameplate says.
First half was actually interesting because Florida State, they were hitting some shots that they don't normally hit. Tenor Ingram knocked down some threes. Wyatt was hitting some contested threes. Jalen Morley was fantastic, I thought.
It wasn't just threes for Wyatt Wilkes. He had that really nice layup too. On driving left. I'm like, what is happening? I don't know if anyone follows me on Instagram, but my caption for the post after the game was shout out to the Duke student told me my writing sucked. At one point in the game, in my 3 game-changing plays article, I'd put Tenor Ingram, Wyatt Wilkes, and Jalen Worley were having near out-of-body experiences. And the Duke student behind me goes, are those the words I would use? I'm like, have you watched this team this year? Yes. That's where that caption came from. Jalen Worley in particular played awesome. 15 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, just 2 turnovers in 35 minutes. I mean, that's as good as you can ask for from Worley.
So triple-double watch.
That's a really good performance for a true freshman that's, really struggled at times this year, and it's really struggled in big games. In the first game against Duke, he had the free throw misses that almost cost the team down the stretch. His shot, especially the first half of the season, was really, really broken. But quietly, I think he's up to 36% from 3 this season. He's hit a decent fair share in these last 5 or 6 games. Really playing with confidence, and that's something that I like to see. Unfortunately, didn't carry over to Boston College. It's really the biggest highlight of that game. Was him getting. The highlight of that game was him getting pushed over and Teddy Valentine calling a double tech because, of course, Teddy Valentine is going to call a double tech when someone else gets pushed over. It's just the way it works. And that's all I want to talk about the Boston College game. What's more interesting is today is the 2-year anniversary of Trent Forrest baptizing Jordan Nwora. I feel like that's something we should mention. Once I saw that on Twitter, of course, I had to go back and watch like 7 games from that season to get me in a better mental state. Screw COVID, man. The team was fun.
Screwed us, man.
Took away a potential national championship.
The team was so much fun. And you go back and look at it now, like they just what Raekwon Evans was doing that year, especially down the stretch. They had sets for him that he was doing just really good stuff on. That I wish they'd run for him this year, but I get he's got to play a little bit of a different role. It was just a fun season. That was a really fun season. I wish we could have seen that season play out.
Another voice crack, number 2.
I know.
No, dude, he had another one a couple minutes ago. It's like 3.
So
we're waiting for you, Dustin, to have yours now.
This is my first day off where I'm not traveling for a game.
Here we go.
Or covering a game or anything like that since I had COVID in early January.
You choose to do that though, so that's
it's just the way it's just the way my schedule works out.
What does traveling have to do with your voice cracking?
I am tired. That is what I'm trying to say.
Just let everybody know, every person on here will make every excuse imaginable. Like Dustin said, his brain wasn't working before coming on the podcast.
It's not. Have you heard me?
There's always something. An hour before the podcast, there's always something going on. Nate, actually, I thought he was joking with us. He does actually sound like Darth Vader and looks awful.
This really is my first true day off that I've had since early January. When I had COVID, that's a fact.
There's a reason why we aren't playing in sports or in the pros or anything. That's why we sit here and cover football and don't do anything. Because if we did anything more, if we did anything more than that and get off of our computers and go do things, we would not be able to make it. I'm telling you. But that's Austin's excuse. He was traveling and his voice is cracking like a teenager.
I've traveled so much that I'm about to get a new car.
And you're about to get a new car?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm officially tired of sitting in my own car. That I'm about to get a new one, probably.
You gotta get the Tesla so you don't have to steering wheel that much. Carol's mentioning that the softball team is killing. Yes, ma'am, they are. Not wrong about that.
Dominated that invitational over the weekend, beat UCLA to win it. Crazy. Sydney Sherrill is the freaking GOAT. That's my former neighbor right there. And she's out there hitting dingers. She had an inside the park home run.
Speed. Fast as hell. She beat you.
Oh, dude. No doubt. I think I'd have a better chance of beating Corey Wren than her. Because at least Corey Wren might be hurt.
Damn. Corey, if you're listening,
please ignore us.
Text. Yeah.
Sorry, when we get to this point of the episode, we're just...
once we start talking about basketball, things go off the rails.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm holding on for you to laugh. We're trying to keep the crowd entertained, but basketball is in a tough spot. There's no more NFL really to talk about. Next week,
we could talk. Scotty Barnes missing 5 layups in that All-Star Challenge.
Was he on the doobie or something?
Dude, I watched that happen live, and I was just sitting here like,
you watched it live?
I was right. Yeah, I watched it. I watched it live, and I was like. So I was right. He's going to be a bust.
Oh, my God. Yeah. You idiot.
I hate you sometimes. Like, 40%.
He had a terrible All-Star weekend. That's all.
No, he did. He did.
But it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
They're there to goof off and enjoy themselves a little bit. It doesn't really matter that much.
Maybe a couple Hennessy shots beforehand. 21's giving me some compliments. The lounge, this is the lounge. Thank you. I thought you were going to be like making fun of me there, and you might be 21, but I think you're giving me some actual love there.
But I will say, I don't think anyone's going to remember Scotty Barnes's performance from All-Star Weekend. Everyone's going to remember that pathetic dunk contest, which I also watched live and regret.
And everyone's also going to remember Steph Curry going berserk in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Like,
he's not.
That one of a kind. He turned around from half court while the ball was still in the air. I was like, what is he doing? But speaking of Scotty Barnes, I don't know if y'all saw this today. He announced he's partnering with the Skilled Trades College where he's gifting scholarships to Canadian citizens.
Oh, snap. Oh, that's awesome. That's badass.
Yeah.
Scotty killing it, man, off the court.
Yeah, and he's not even Canadian. So that's pretty
he's
cool.
not. And the scholarship, I believe, is mostly for Indigenous people. Yeah, Black and Indigenous students.
Thank you.
Pretty cool.
Johnny's asking what's the deal with the stadium repairs. We're hoping to have a guest on this week to kind of help us with this, maybe with the stadium repairs along with NIL. That will probably maybe be moved to next week. We keep saying that we're going to have guests on. And we did end up having Parson on.
I've talked with Logan about this. I was like, look, we got to get it together, man.
Hey, we got to get the lineup back.
After basketball season's over, we'll have some. I'll promise that.
VZ's saying he's going to beat us.
Get some good ones.
Yeah,
that's who people want to listen to right now.
They'll want to listen to a couple of these guys. I promise. They'll want to listen to a couple.
Well, yeah, the NBA guys, I'm all for having Man back on. I mean, dude is blowing up in the NBA. Give me some Forrest, who's had a great season.
I'm not going to lie. I'd like to have Harrison Prieto on the podcast. I think that would be a good episode. I really do.
Because think about guys like him and Justin.
I want him to give us a live weather forecast on the podcast.
They've been at Florida State since 2016. That was my first year working with the team. Was their first year.
Jesus
2016. They have been through everything.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it'd be good to get some
good
insight.
They would have some good stories. And I mean, and there's some funny guys too. I'll say that.
We're looking to get some guys. We're trying to get some current players now that we're credentialed. We're put in some requests for a few players that we think will become more available once spring begins. During tour of duty, Norvell likes to keep things tight, so we're in the waiting list for a few players and hopefully
coaches as well.
Yep, staff members. So just hold on with us, and we see the pod numbers. I don't know, you podcast people over there listening to it all. So whatever we're doing might not need to change, but having some more guests on here, I know people want. So we're working on it. Trust me, we try to find as much content possible when it's dry like it was a couple weeks ago. I mean, it was dry. We had nothing to talk about really.
Last week.
We would love to have it like 30 minutes. Yeah, 30 minutes or 45 minutes to have a guest on and interview, because I feel like our interviews go pretty well. So we're working on it. We got some things in the works.
And to the comment that someone left earlier about trying to get Jalen, Derwin, or Dalvin on, trust me, we've tried. We've tried.
We're working on it.
We had
hopefully they reply to my DM.
We're trying with a lot of things.
I've even tried to the point where this week a Chargers player came to the store. I'm not gonna say who, but a Chargers player came to the store. I was gonna go up and try and see if I could get Derwin's info so we could get him on the pod. They left before I could.
Come on, Beezy, what are we doing?
I tried. He was in the store for a total of 2 minutes, and I was busy doing something.
Oh my god!
I was
there's a lot of paperwork behind the scenes, checks and balances. So once we get through those, we'll have some good guests.
I can promise everybody we ain't there yet. We ain't there yet. We're trying everything.
Just know we've tried, and we will keep trying.
Yeah. No, there's a few that we're definitely going to try. 21's wanting to get Armel on here. There's a lot of players that we want to grab this offseason. This is a time when we can grab. During football season, it's about no chance at all. Like only bye weeks, I think we got Neighbors on from the Chargers and maybe one other player in years past. But it's very hard during the football season. The best time is now till practically training camp. So
I don't know, man. You were slacking this past year, and in earlier years, you would be bringing on guests to like preview games and all this. And last year, you were just kind of like,
well, whatever. I mean, if people want to have Charlie Ward or Peter Work on again,
why wouldn't they want to have them on?
We'll run it back again. I mean, I'm about it. I just don't know if people want to have. I mean, Peter Work I'd have on every episode. I think P-Dub should be just Charlie Ward a full-time co-host on the show.
Charlie Ward is a great speaker.
Oh, well, yeah. No, he's the one that can talk, too. He talks more than
nothing wrong with that. More content.
Exactly. And less of hearing you.
I mean, he's got a damn Heisman. Get the man on the podcast.
Charlie's awesome. I love Mr. Ward. He's always great and always down to hop on. So he'll definitely have him on this offseason.
Yeah, we're working on that job and then never got back to me. So
who did?
Charlie Ward. Remember, he's like, we need a radio broadcast or something like that.
Oh,
and then he never got back to me.
Obviously, didn't think of bright future for you. You're stuck with us, buddy.
Hey, since we were talking about the spring game earlier, remember last spring game when we talked to Winky? Whatever happened with that?
No, Winky ghosted me. I got the number and everything. I mean, that was at the spring game, dude.
I'm pretty sure he gave Logan the wrong number.
I think he might have. Like, he might have really gypped me. He might have got me. I've heard he's a really tough guy to get on for an interview, but he got me good if he did give a wrong number. I'm probably texting some rando in Ohio. So if Winky's listening out there, would love to have you, man. I'm sure we could have a really good conversation on here, but I was proud of that one.
At some point.
Nobody was noticing him. Everybody was over to Travis Hunter and everything, which is hilarious to think of now, but everybody was getting pictures and everything with Travis Hunter during that spring game. And to see a Heisman winner walk by.
Not even just Travis, but Nico Marchiol.
I've got a picture from the spring game that I posted on Twitter from then, and it's Travis Hunter and Nico Marchiol standing together, like signing autographs for fans. And I mean, man, if you would have known then what we know now, just wow. Recruiting is crazy, right?
Yeah.
I wonder what's going to happen this year.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting.
Donald's saying, where are y'all from? And he said also, Winky's definitely not listening to our show. And, it's almost a hit. That's a hit on us, but, you're probably not wrong, though. Where are we from? Austin's from Charlotte, North Carolina. And then
originally Duval County.
I was going to say, he's not from there.
Originally Duval County.
Well,
I'm a proud Duval resident.
People don't care that much. They really want to know what's going on.
Care.
Well, you care, but
shout out to 904.
Oh, God. I think that's going to wrap it up. Next week.
Where are you from? Why'd you say where he's
from? Tallahassee. From Tallahassee. You are too.
You didn't say that, though.
Well, I said Dustin and then interrupted again. Just trying to get through this, really, honestly. And then, yep, I am showing some love to JT's. Shout out to Jameis and JT's marketing guy over there, Joe Hernandez, hooked it up with a little 4th and 14. I like this shirt, though. Feels good. But this was a guy I was high on last spring, man. I'm going to see if I can go 2 for 2. I'm going to figure out my next star guy that's going to pan out to be good. I don't know. I don't really know where I'm going with that. But, yeah, next week we'll have actually some good stuff to talk about. We'll be there for Tour of Duty, so we'll be able to recap a little bit of that, D-Lou.
Very, very little.
No,
we can barely say anything. So we won't have any photos. We won't have any videos, and we will present to you information in a very standard format.
And that's not just because that's what we don't want to do that, but that's just how,
we've got to pertain to FSU's policies on reporting on certain things.
Yeah. True.
Logan got us in some trouble last year. Huh, buddy? Like I said, it's going to be an interesting season.
What is he talking about?
We might not have credentials by the end of it.
I know exactly what he's talking about.
But
I wish we did. But yeah, no, that would be a good one. And then I'm trying to think of anything more. Yeah, we got a special announcement next Tuesday too. So keep an eye out for that. That one's
it's not that
kind of been under the radar, but super excited for it.
And we get to talk about 2 of the last 3 FSU basketball games next week.
I can't wait. God.
We're to the point where we don't even preview anymore. They play Virginia Saturday. That used to be a huge matchup. No,
that's all right. Yeah. Nope. Everybody just make sure you get your countdown timer set.
Next Wednesday, Notre Dame. That's a big game. Notre Dame's good. No one cares.
Yeah. And Tug here in the comments is going to go ahead and send us off with the show saying, I would like to send my thoughts and prayers to Coach Norvell. Don't know what happened. Don't know if we need to be alerted of anything, but he's sending his thoughts and prayers to Coach Norvell before the spring starts. So thank you, Tug, on YouTube. Definitely probably a Miami fan. Anyways, that's going to do it. That's going to wrap up this week. Next week, we'll go jump into the defensive side of the ball and
special teams.
And a little bit of special teams, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, we'll sprinkle that in there.
Full hour in-depth breakdown, film analysis on the snapping speed and the form. It's going to be fun. It's my favorite part.
We don't need a full special teams preview podcast. You just shove it at the end of defense.
Yeah.
Remember this, Logan?
Yeah, that was a rough thing that we put on Twitter. That was a rough clip. Little weird. All right.
You got to have some power behind it.
Oh, God. Get me out of here, please. All right. Everybody enjoy the rest of y'all's weekend. We'll talk to you guys next week on Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Hit the subscribe button before you leave. And if you're on YouTube right now, then there's 50 of y'all. If you wouldn't mind just hitting the like button, it helps to get out to more FSU fans. Have a great weekend, and talk to you next Thursday. Peace.